to how we can be creative and how we can turn a 0% or a 3.5% down payment into a 20, 30, or 40 or more equity position just like that without utilizing our own personal money.
Welcome to the House Hacking Success Podcast, where you'll learn the path to free rent and financial freedom through real estate. Featuring your hosts, Brad LaBrie and Drew Klingler.
Hey everyone, real quick before we start the show, Brad wrote an amazing ebook that will teach you everything you need to know about house hacking and living rent-free. To get a free copy, text HouseHack, all one word, to 22828. That's HouseHack, all one word, to 22828 to get your free copy.
Welcome to the House Hacking Success Podcast. I'm your host, Bradley LaBrie, and today we're going to talk about creative financing, how we can utilize our brains to create equity positions with low down payments. So let me clarify what I mean by this. If we utilize some of these loans we're going to talk about or creative financing ways I'm going to talk about today and put in 0 or 3.5 or 5% down payments on these properties, which is a great way to go as a creative investor, we're not going to stay there, right? We're going to take equity positions, for instance, utilizing a 2 or 3K renovation loan, putting 3.5% down payment, renovating a property, and ending up at 30 or 40% equity. So that way, by the time we get done with it, whether the markets turn, whether we go into recession, you're still going to have a large equity position and you're never going to go underwater. And again, we're investing for cash flow. We're not investing for appreciation or the value of the property. We do enjoy when our properties go up and perhaps we refinance and pull some of that money out to be able to go put it into other properties. But again, we're not counting on appreciation. We're not counting on the property value as it is today. We're counting on the underlying cash flow and the income that is produced from the property. So we're going to go through each one of these one by one. We're going to show you the pros and some of the cons, but mostly just give you creative ideas and just get your mind turning to how we can be creative and how we can turn a 0% or a 3.5% down payment into a 20, 30, or 40 or more equity position just like that without utilizing our own personal money. It's incredibly powerful.
So the first one is seller financing. I'm going to give it a little bit of an overview on each one of these, either how I've done it personally or how as an agent I've helped coach people through it, or friends of mine who have personally utilized these particular creative financing ideas. The first one is seller financing or a land contract, something where the owner owns the property 100% free and clear. They can't have a mortgage on it, and where they can be the mortgagor to you. They can hold the note for you. So essentially, instead of getting a mortgage through a bank, the owner is going to give it to you. And there's many, many reasons why this is very advantageous for other individuals. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story for mine. But with these particular deals, you have to be able to sell the fact that they are actually going to make more becoming the lender to you than if they went other ways. And again, you have to, for the majority of people, you're going to have to sell them on this idea. So, what are the advantages of the person lending to you holding the note? Number one, they no longer have to manage the property. If you're buying a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, or whatever it is, they no longer have to manage the property. You're doing that. Or you're going to have property management, but you now have those headaches. And they get interest from, you're going to pay an interest rate to them and a monthly mortgage to them. They're going to still get cash flow every month, but they no longer have the headaches that they used to of being a landlord. You're going to take those on now, right? Second, they don't have to pay whatever tax they're going to have to pay, long-term capital gains rate, depreciation recapture, which is a big one that not a whole lot of people know about. They have depreciated this property over the course of however many years they've owned it, the IRS will recapture those depreciation gains, which is a big tax bill to them unless they do something like a 1031 or whatever. But you can sell them on the fact that this is going to be a long, drawn-out process. You're going to pay them interest rate. They're not going to have to worry about a big tax bill this year. It's going to be drawn out over time. and that is a huge advantage for them. So again, you just have to sell the terms. You can negotiate anything you want. I personally negotiated a 0% for 6 months, so I didn't make any payments for 6 months to own this property, 0%. You can do whatever it is, and it is a little bit market dependent. You know, if you're in a really, really hot market, it might be a little more challenging, or you might have to give in a little bit more, higher interest rate or whatever. But again, this is a great way to not need to go through banks, and it is very advantageous for the seller or the mortgagor who's going to hold a note for you to do this. So a little bit about the story with mine. The person who I mortgaged this through had bought this in the recession, and so they bought it at bottom dollar, fixed it up, held it for a long time, but they were sick and tired of all the problems that comes with being a landlord. And so I approached them and said, listen, you know, you're going to have a big tax bill from what you paid for it to now, a huge gain. Allow me to help, you know, spread that out a little bit. I'll give you a down payment, which they needed $35,000 to hold it because they wanted to get into retail. But I didn't have the $35,000 at that time because I was already into another project. And so what I had to do is utilize two creative financing ideas and merge them into one, which is going to be kind of a theme for you as an investor going forward. It can't always be black and white. You're going to have to understand all of these concepts and merge some of them together. So what I did is I found a private money investor. I put a little bit of my cash. The private money investor put a little bit of their cash. And we came up with $35,000. And we gave it to him to hold it for 6 months for 0% for me. At that 6-month period, my wife and I came in, made it our primary residence. So when we did that, the conventional loan cashed us back out the $35,000. I paid off the investor, paid myself off. I still had $15,000 of equity in the property by the time that happened. And we have none of our own personal money into the project. So again, merging seller financing and a private money lender together allowed us to get into 0%, but also have $15,000 of equity in the property right away as our tenants pay down the mortgage. So the second one, seller financing being the first one, being a great way to have someone hold the note for you, not needing to go to a bank. The second one is private money. Now, how do we utilize private money? In several different ways, whether it's merging with seller financing, whether it's buying a property outright, doing some renovation, and then getting bank loan on it. But private money is a great way to usually short-term buy properties, generally rehab them, or buying properties and getting tenants in place and then getting bank loans. Whatever it is, private money can be anyone. Can be family, can be friends, can be somebody that personally does it, you know, somebody that is a lender, that has a little bit of money that's willing to lend to you. There are many ways to find private money, and it can be very advantageous for you personally, which is also leads us to hard money. Hard money is more of institutional money outside of banks, but hard money lenders lend to flippers, lend to people that are doing like a BRRRR investing, where they're buying and they're rehabbing it, and then they're going to rent it out and they're going to finance it and all that. But hard money is a little bit more expensive generally than private money, and you're working more institutional instead of like a person or one corporation. But there are two great ways to merge, and we're going to talk a little about both of those as we go down the creative financing list. The next one is what I personally done was a 203k loan, but there's many options here. There's a 203k loan, there's a Fannie Mae homestyle loan, which is the conventional route, and there's the VA remodeling loan or renovation loan, VA renovation loan. Each one of these will hold your hand through the process of buying a property, a distressed property, rehabbing it, giving you the money to do it, and verifying. The biggest point is they verify that the contractor did the right work, because if the contractor did not do the correct work, they won't pay the contractor. So you get your hand held through the process. It creates vision in while you're renovating it, and you create equity. So for me personally, I bought a 3-unit from a bank, completely dilapidated. I had to gut it essentially down to the studs and redo everything. And I added a 4th unit with the 203k loan. And because I did that, I added $120,000 of equity. And my cash flow numbers are so much larger than if I had just purchased it outright. This particular place cash flows somewhere between $1,700 and $1,800 a month, free and clear, because I put in all that upfront work into it. And so Fannie Mae Homestyle can do that for you as well, and the VA renovation loan can do that for you with 0% down. 203k loan is generally 3.5%, and the Fannie Mae homestyle loan is generally somewhere between 3 to 10%, depending on what you qualify for. But all three of those are great options where the bank will finance you for the renovation, hold your hand through the process, and generally when you get out of that, your risk is so much lower because you have a great equity position. For instance, with the 203K loan, I put 3.5% down. I walked out of that with 38% equity position, right? That is 35% or 34.5% swing of equity position. So that's what I talked about in the beginning, where although we're not So that's what I talked about in the beginning. Although we utilize the 0% down or 3.5% down FHA loans, and that's all we're putting down for down payments, although we utilize those, we don't stay in those positions. As creative financing investors, we find ways to take 3.5% or 0% down and turn it into 30% or 38% equity position. That is the art of being a great investor, is getting infinite returns, but getting them and mitigating our risk. That is the key to all of this. So we got the 203K loan, Fannie Mae homestyle loan, the VA renovation loans. All three of those are institutional ways to renovate properties, get your hand held through the process. You're always going to have somebody right there for you, because again, the bank doesn't want to lose money. That's why they're going to hold your hand, not because they're nice people, but because they want to see you have a great property. They don't want to lose their money. So they're going to hold you through the process, make sure everything goes right, make sure everything goes smooth, make sure everything gets done correctly, and you come out with a great asset on the other end. So all three of those are great options for you as an investor. And then the final two is BRRRR investing, and which kind of culminates all of these ideas. BRRRR stands for buy, renovate, rent out, refinance, and repeat. Okay, and so basically what that means, you can utilize any of these, any one of these 6 ideas that we just talked about can be used as a BRRRR investment. So let's just go through one that I personally used. I did the 203K loan. I renovated the property. I took it from a $105,000 purchase to a $225,000 property, and at the end of it, because I wanted to lower my mortgage payment, lower my interest rate, and drop my PMI payment, I refinanced from a 203K loan to a conventional loan. And that dropped all three of those and allowed me to get a higher rate of cash flow. But you can do that with any of the other situations. With private money or hard money, you can buy a property, renovate it, and at the end of it, you refinance to a conventional, you pull the money out, and then you go do it again. That's the power of BRRRR investing. You're just repeating the same process over and over. You're taking the same money and repeating it over and over and over. And you can do that with any number of those situations that we had. You can even get a conventional loan or just a standard FHA loan, do some renovations to them, and then refinance out that money. But it's a very, very powerful investing tool. And the last one is something that I just got done doing for a client as an agent, and that is seller concessions. So, for instance, this particular client of mine used a regular FHA loan, putting 3.5% down, but they expressed to me that they wanted to lower their money put into the property to have for reserves and such, right? And so what we did is they bought it for $130,000, which is something to the tune of $4,600 down payment, I believe, which is 3.5%. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. And they wanted to put more like $2,500 down, and they wanted to keep about $2,500. And so what we ended up doing is we got $2,500 seller concessions, meaning that at closing, the sellers of the property are going to put $2,500 towards his down payment, or towards any number of what he has to pay out of pocket to get the loan. And so seller concession can be an amazing tool. I mean, it is market dependent, but there are people in very, very hot markets that do this. For instance, I was doing a flip on a property, and the person that bought my flip asked or offered $5,000 over asking price on my property if I would bring $4,000 out of pocket. Now, my market wasn't incredibly hot, but it was a pretty hot market. So I accepted that deal, and I got $1,000 over asking price, but they got $4,000 out of pocket to close on the property. So even if you're in a really hot market, you can utilize this concept. So again, creative financing. There are a lot of ways to do it. We're going to talk more and more as we go through this podcast. I just wanted to briefly overview all of these ideas. Reach out to us at House Hacking Success on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. DM me personally, Bradley LaBrie. Ask me about any of these personal concepts. I have either done them or know people who have done them who I can advise you to talk to, or I have helped people through them as an agent. So DM me, ask me any questions you want on any of these, but they are all very, very powerful ways to take a small equity position like a 3.5% down payment and turn it into 38% equity positions, which means, again, if the market ever turns, A, your cash flow is still there, but B, even if there's a 20% market decline, at 38% equity position, I still have 18% left, right? And so you're not going to go underwater during a recession. You're going to be able to outlast it because of cash flow. And again, we're investing for cash flow. I'm personally investing for cash flow. That's why we buy multi-units and rent them out. So there are ways to take small amounts of cash, turn them into large amounts of cash, all based on how we think and how do we utilize it. So again, DM me, ask me any questions you want. You guys have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey everyone, Brad wrote an amazing ebook that will teach you everything you need to know about house hacking and living rent free. To get a free copy, text house hack, all one word, to 22828. That's house hack, all one word, to 22828 to get your free copy.